What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another year of PGA DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. This opening video of the season is for the 2024 Sentry. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. And in these videos, we break down everything you need to know for PGA DFS slates. Quick videos, 10 to 15 minutes long, talking about the course overview, how the tournament is expected to be played, important attributes, weather, ownership, both high and low, and those GPP winning plays, as well as some betting market analysis that is unique to Occupy Fantasy. Now, you may be wondering, why should I listen to you, right? Maybe you've seen my showdown videos here on the Occupy Fantasy YouTube channel. Maybe you've seen me on Twitter. Maybe you've never seen me at all. This is the first video that you're seeing. Well, for PGA DFS, multi-time World Championship qualifier, multi-time King of the Desert qualifier, multi-time six-figure winner in PGA DFS, and we have all the tools that are different than what the industry is looking at when it comes to playing golf on FanDuel and DraftKings. Without further ado, let's get into it and let's talk about the 2024 Sentry. Now, this is a 59 player event. There is no cut. Now, we love playing cut events here at Occupy Fantasy, especially because the leverage gained when a popular golfer misses the cut. Scoring is much more binary. Obviously, you'll see guys score 10 to 20 points versus guys that score 100 to 120. And that big difference is a great way to get leverage. Now, when you don't have a cut, the scoring is much more condensed and it's a little bit harder to manufacture leverage in your DFS lineups. But no worries, we'll still find a way to find edges for this particular contest. So like I said, 59 golfers, many of the best golfers in the world are in this event. But let's talk about really quickly what we look for when playing no-cut events. This one particularly, because it's so early in the season, historically, players that have played events in some sort of competitive golf in December have fared better than guys who have not played all winter long. And guys who have played this course before typically play better than guys who have not played this course before. And that goes for a lot of courses out there, but there are some courses in particular where having the experience is much more beneficial than going out there for your first time ever. And then particularly in no-cut events, and I think this is important, and maybe you just naturally build this way if you're building by hand, you're using an optimizer or our lineup builder. Oftentimes, you'll just end up with a 6K golfer in your lineup. Now, in this event particularly, there are many great 6K golfers compared to your average cut event, but the amount of lineups that either win, small field, large field, the smallest field, cash, satellites, whatever it is, nearly every single lineup historically in a no-cut event uses at least one 6K golfer. If you look at top 1% lineups, top 5% lineups, the trend holds. You want a 6K golfer in your lineup for no-cut events. The reason being, there's not much downside. They can't miss the cut. They're going to put up points, and it allows you generally to fit an extra expensive, good golfer into your DFS lineup. So no matter which type of contest you're playing for this week, start your lineup with at least one 6K golfer, maybe even two, depending on how you build the rest of your lineup. But at least one historically has been nearly necessary to have a top finish in PGA DFS contests. All right, now let's talk about some betting odds because DraftKings had some very interesting, and interesting is a very nice way to put it, pricing this week when it comes to some of these golfers. Now, what we like to do here at Occupy Fantasy, we monitor 3 to 4 what we consider sharp golf sports books. These are golf sports books. These are sports books that take significant action. They're willing to take sharp action from bettors who have historically been profitable betting golf, and they're okay with taking that action. And by monitoring how they move the odds of various golfers throughout the week, we can get a sense of who the sharpest sports bettors in the world are on when it comes to golf and directly translate that into our DFS lineups. Before we get into the odds moves in particular this week, let's look at the completely mispriced players this week based on odds to win. Now, yes, we have projected ownership, but if you're looking at smaller contests or even you don't have access to projected ownership for some reason, you can look at and compare odds to win versus a DraftKings salary and get a pretty good sense of who is mispriced and how their ownership is going to flow, because it is a big important factor on how most of the field builds their lineups and how they choose players. So I'm going to bring up our Occupy model, occupyfantasy.com. This is our PGA model, ranks every player, every golfer for DraftKings and FanDuel with our proprietary metrics. But Even though it has projected ownership here, you can get a great sense of who's going to be even more popular in your contest just by sorting by salary. Right now, I have it sorted by highest to lowest DraftKings salary, and then comparing their odds to win. If you're completely new and uninitiated when it comes to betting odds, the larger the number, the less likely they are to win. So you see Scotty Scheffler plus 500. He is 5-1 to win this tournament. He is the favorite to win this tournament. So let's look at two guys who DraftKings mispriced as just too high, right? Based on their odds to win, they are completely overpriced. The first one is Wyndham Clark. He is $9,600 on DraftKings, but his odds to win are 50-1. When you compare that to guys around him, and that's how you generally want to look at this, Max Homa above him is just 12-1. Matt Fitzpatrick below him is 28-1. Yeah, he's priced in between both of them at 50-1. He's completely overpriced, and we would be shocked if he gets over 5% owned on DraftKings as a result. The next one is Brian Harmon, who at $9,300 is 40-1, and he suffers from the same fate that Wyndham Clark does, where Fitzpatrick above him is 28-1, Tyrrell Hatton below him is 25-1. So if you're just naturally clicking or using an optimizer and using projections that factor in betting odds, then you're not going to get much of Brian Harmon based on this factor. For that sense, we also have him below 10% projected ownership on DraftKings. Very easy to see who is overpriced, and typically you never see a 50-1 golfer priced at $9,600 on DraftKings. Really not sure what's up with that. Now, if you go on the flip side, you look at golfers that are too low owned for this week based on their betting odds. Sorry, too low priced. Not necessarily too low owned, but too low priced for their betting odds. Then we have four that stick out to me. First is Colin Morikawa at $9,100. And it's funny because Cut Sweats, who is a great site out there for analysis and sweating out your golf lineups, they put out a tool earlier this offseason where you could type in your username and it would tell you which golfers you made the most money on, which golfers lost you the most money on DraftKings last year. And shout out to my father, who I know is going to be watching this video. Colin Morikawa was on the list of losing him the most money last year. We may be going back to that well again here because at just $9,100, Morikawa is just 12-1 to win the tournament. Now, these odds are from our partnered sportsbook, Sugar House in New Jersey. Odds are pretty similar across the board, depending on the sportsbook you look. May differ from a couple cents here or there, but he's 12-1, whereas Hatton is 25, Fleetwood is 25. I mean, you have to go all the way up to Max Homa at $9,700 to get similar odds as Morikawa, so he is underpriced. He will be popular. Next is Ludwig Oberg, who is a phenom, obviously, 14-1. And he is just $8,700. I'm not sure why he's priced at $8,700, but he is $1,400 plus $1,400, 14-1. You have to go all the way up to Morikawa at 91, and then all the way up to Homa again at 97. So he's mispriced by about $900 or $1,000 on DraftKings. He will be extremely popular, perhaps the most popular golfer on the site. Next, we have Russell Henley. Let's scroll down a little bit. He is $7,700. And again, not as stark of a difference as Morikawa and Oberg, but $3,300. You look above him, 50-1. Look below him, 66-1. Very easy way to find out who's going to be popular in your contest. Finally, we have Eric Cole, who cover boy of our Daily Plug this week. Our Daily Plug is written by Nir Amata, a top PGA DFS player, where he gives his favorite plays outside of our model. Talks about lineup construction tips for various contests on both FanDuel and DraftKings, an excellent roadmap for the slate. And then on Wednesday afternoons, he comes in and gives updated betting market analysis. You have to read that if you want to win in PGA DFS. Eric Cole is the cover boy because he is completely mispriced. $7,400, 66-1. Yet look above him. Lucas Glover, 125-1. Below him, Kitayama, 150, 100. Pretty mispriced. Eric Cole going to be popular in the mold of these other guys above him. All right, let's go back to DraftKings here. And again, you can access this for as little as $7 a week at OccupyFantasy.com. You want to do your own analysis. You want to check out who our model is rating highly. I think it's essential. I'm a little biased, but I think it's essential to playing PGA DFS. All right, let's go back to DraftKings. Now let's talk about these sharp sports books that I was alluding to earlier, and let's analyze some of their moves. Now, I'm recording this Wednesday around 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Typically, the best and final moves come Wednesday evening, at which point in our Discord server, OccupyFantasy.com/Discord, the link is in the description below, I will post the final, I call them trifecta plays. These are golfers where their odds to win have improved at every single sharp sportsbook that we track. These golfers historically have fantastic success based on this move. We have one golfer so far where their odds to win have improved at every sportsbook that we track, and that is Xander Schauffele. 10K, we expect him to be pretty popular, not necessarily because of his trifecta move, but just of his stature in general, his status at 10K. Hasn't played in a little bit, so that's a little concerning, but sharp sports bettors are all over Xander, and he should be a staple in your lineups as a result. Now, this can change. Golfers can drop off the trifecta list if they get late action against them, or more bets are coming in on guys around them. So you want to check out this final list. Here are some golfers that have moved at multiple sharp sports books, but they haven't checked the box at every single one. These guys could eventually move into that trifecta territory by tonight, and I'm just going to name them quickly. And these are guys you should still consider because they're still being moved at multiple sports books. And we got Tom Kim at $8,900. We have Syed Thigala at $7,600. Matthew Fitzpatrick, $9,500. Oddly enough, he was a trifecta play late last night, moved off this morning. I wouldn't be shocked to see him move back into the trifecta territory tonight. Next, we have Cam Davis, who we expect to be popular at $7,100. Eric Cole, who we've mentioned already as mispriced, $7,400. Morikawa, multiple sports books. Just hard to get away from Colin this week, given his mispricing and his rating for this tournament. Sepp Straka is extremely interesting. $7,800. I'll talk about him at the end in our GPP winners section. Corey Connors, if I could type his name correctly, $7,500. Multiple sports books have moved his odds. Kurt Kitayama, interesting. He should be pretty low owned at $7,400. And Adam Schenk at $6,900, the only 6K golfer on this list. So there's a handful of guys. And again, if you're not going to be in our Discord, this is the only content you watch for the week, still consider these golfers in your lineups. There's a good chance they end up in that trifecta territory that we value so heavily. And even if not, multiple sportsbooks moves is never a bad thing. All right, let's talk about some more high-owned plays and some chalk history when it comes to these no-cut contests. But again, let's get the water sip. Just because it's not an NFL showdown slate, still got to get the water sip in. Get hydrated. All right, these are golfers that I expect to be chalkier than you may not think based on, if you look at their odds, you look at some other factors, you may not think they end up higher owned, but you open your small field contest, your cash game lineup, and you look and say, wow, I didn't expect to be this guy to be this highly owned. Here are a couple guys, and it's mostly based on industry projections and some other sportsbook moves. First is Benny On. Let's scroll down here. Let's find him. There he is. $6,800. We expect him to be more popular. Our projected ownership right now, let's just look here. We have him at just 6% on DraftKings. I would be shocked if he's not over 10% and even over 15% in some small field GPPs based on his industry projections. And his odds to win too, right? He's 80-1 compared to golfers around him, 100-1. We see the odds move here for Benny On, minus 2,000. So I expect him to be popular. Next is Luke List. And again, you'll see a common theme here. These guys are 6K. Most of the sharper PGA DFS players are going to play a 6K golfer to have access to at least one more 9K or 10K guy. And it's no surprise that we'll see these guys a little bit higher owned as a result. Let's go back here. Luke List is the next one. He is near the bottom of the pricing list, $6,200. We expect him. I would be shocked if he's not 15% plus, if not 20% plus in small field GPPs. Russell Henley, who we've already mentioned as mispriced, he is, let's find him up here. Henley, where are you, bud? There he is, $7,700. I would expect him over 20% in small field GPPs. Cam Davis, $7,100. Industry projections like him a lot. Would expect him to be popular. And then Patrick Rodgers, another punt play near the bottom, $6,100 based on industry projections and how sharp PGA DFS players typically play these types of events. Would expect him to be popular than the 2% or 3% projected ownership that we have for large field GPPs. So how do you use this information? Let's scroll back up. Just consider, as you're building a lineup and you may look at our projected ownership and you say, oh, Patrick Rodgers is 2%. That is enough of a differentiator for my small field GPP. These guys, ownership will be higher on them in smaller contests and larger contests. So just one extra step to consider if you want to be different in those contests. Now, speaking of historical no-cut events, the best range to play chalky golfers and get the best return on your investment is the 9K range. Historically, these golfers when they end up popular, have ended up in the winning lineups, top 1% lineups, top 10% lineups at a higher rate than other buckets, other salary buckets. So that bodes well for Colin Morikawa. Again, just another checkbox for Morikawa. $9,100. Typically, golfers in the 9K or higher range perform the best when they are popular in no-cut events. The 6 to 8K range is the one that performs the worst. 10K golfers are pretty average when it comes to chalky versus not chalky. But you look at 6 to 8K golfers, we've already mentioned a bunch in this range that we expect to be popular. This is the range I would choose to get different. Yes, we like Eric Cole a lot. Yes, we like some of these other guys in this range. But historically, they haven't provided the ROI for their ownership that similar price golfers have at lower ownership. So if you're looking to get different, the 6 to 8K range is the range to get different. And that's in all contest types, especially in smaller contests, but even more so in the largest GPPs. When you can have a golfer that's 20% at $7,400 and another one that's 2%, historically the 2% golfer, and this goes for all events, not just no-cut events, but especially in no-cut events, we find that the 6 to 8K range is the most volatile when it comes to playing chalky players. So if you're playing chalky guys, you want to eat the chalk somewhere, look for 9K range and higher for this event. Finally, let's get into some GPP tournament winners. These are guys we expect to have low ownership, and low ownership for a reason, but every GPP tournament essentially ever has had a low owned play win it. There are some GPPs out there in the past where it's been incredibly chalky, but for the most part, especially in PGA DFS, at least one low owned golfer is in the winner. We try to identify those here on the show at the end of the show. I'll give you 4 names that make the most sense to me as guys who should be the low owned piece in your lineup, typically for larger contests, but doesn't hurt in small contests either. First one is Harris English. Let's scroll down here. Let's find him. $7,300. Now, he's played recently, which, as we mentioned at the top of the show, is pretty important for success at this tournament. Played in the Grant Thornton Invitational, and he's won here before. Now, we don't like to look at course history as the end-all, be-all, but when a guy is low-owned, anytime you can find subjective reasoning to play them, that makes them a great play in larger field and especially high-risk contests. Now, if he was 20% owned solely for the fact that he's won here before, there may or may not be correlation there. But if he's 7% and there may or may not be correlation, he's worth taking the risk on. So Harris English is a guy that we like at low ownership. Our model has him, let's see, 7,300. Harris English at 6% on DraftKings. We'll get a final ownership update tonight, so make sure you check back on this model before you build your lineups for tomorrow. All right, I mentioned Wyndham Clark and Brian Harman. Yes, they are completely mispriced, but they are good golfers. These are major winners in the past calendar year. So Wyndham Clark, Brian Harman, yes, overpriced, but they can still win. And if they win this event, then they are going to be on GPP winners, especially at their super low ownership. Now, their course fits in different ways. Yes, they're overpriced, but both these guys can win here. Wyndham Clark with his distance, which is important here. Brian Harman with his creative shots. He can win here. Yes, we don't want to play guys who are overpriced in smaller contests, but for the largest contests, get exposure to Clark and Harman because they can win at low ownership. Finally, mention Sepp Straka as a guy whose odds have moved at multiple sharp sports books. This is a course where we've seen winners 30 under. He played recently at the Hero World Challenge. We'd love to see that. And we know he can go low. If you've played PGA DFS or you follow golf, you know Straka has had these rounds where he goes 8 under, 9 under, 10 under, and he has massive birdie-making rounds, huge DraftKings potential. And on a course where you need to make a lot of birdies, what better guy to play? And when he has justification at sharp sportsbooks, Straka is a guy that you have to mix into your large field and small field portfolio for high-risk contests. So that'll do it for this video. Again, this is the first video of the season. It's been a while since I've done one of these PGA DFS videos. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you'd like to see in these videos moving forward. Did you like the show? Let us know. Are there segments you really like, segments you'd like to see? Drop a comment below. You have any questions? I will monitor the channel throughout the day and tomorrow morning. Typically, the event starts early in the morning, but we have until noon Eastern on Thursday, so I will monitor Thursday morning as well for you late viewers. Any questions, comments below, happy to get back to you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get notified when we go live. Get notified when these PGA videos are uploaded every single week. It is free to do so. Just click subscribe here on YouTube and give us a thumbs up if you like the PGA content. Yes, we don't get as much engagement on the PGA videos as NFL, obviously. But if you want to change that, if you want to consider and make sure that these videos stick around, give us a thumbs up. That is the best way to do so. And finally, Daily plug, that'll be updated later today. Occupy model with projected ownership, trifecta plays in Discord. Our lineup builder allows you to take all these rules and all these inputs and spit out up to 300 lineups. Really not much better, no better tools than at Occupy Fantasy for PGA DFS. So, Brian Jester, thank you for listening and good luck. And let's have a profitable 2024.